to the organization as a whole, and everything they do is so first class. And I'm very lucky to be going there to an organization that really loves women's basketball. I mean, you see it today. I think they had
tick tock, tick tock. That's the sound of time running out for the WNBA Players Association, and they're just now starting to realize it. Because right now, as I'm recording this, something unprecedented is happening in professional sports. The players, not the owners, are losing the public relations war. And in a labor negotiation that's not just bad, it's catastrophic. See, there's this unspoken rule in sports labor disputes. Fans always side with the players. Always. We saw it in the NFL. We saw it in the NBA. We saw it in Major League Baseball. The billionaire owners versus the millionaire players. It's supposed to be an easy call for the public. But not this time. This time, something's different. Something's broken. And the cracks are starting to show in ways that should terrify the WNBA Players Association. Sophie Cunningham just went on record calling the entire CBA negotiation dumb. Not complicated. Not challenging. Dumb. That's a player, an active player, expressing complete frustration with how this is being handled. But here's what's really chilling. She didn't say the owners were being dumb. She didn't call out the league. The way she said it, the frustration in her voice, the exasperation. My gut tells me she's pointing the finger at her own union. And she's not alone. Because when Rebecca Lobo, former player, respected analyst, someone who's been in the trenches, when she starts issuing warnings to the players, you know something seismic is happening. Rebecca doesn't do hot takes. She doesn't chase clicks. She's been one of the most consistent voices defending the WNBA, calling out the league when they mess up, celebrating the growth, demanding better officiating. She's been fair, measured, balanced. So when Rebecca Lobo looks into a camera and essentially tells the players, "You're losing the room," you better believe that means something. And what she said wasn't just analysis. It was a warning shot. A dog whistle. A flare sent up from someone who can see what's coming. The players are losing public support. And once that's gone, they've got no leverage left. None. Think about that for a second. In a labor dispute where the workers just had their best year ever, where revenue is exploding, where mainstream attention finally arrived, they're somehow becoming the villains in their own story. How does that happen? Well, it starts with optics. It starts with messaging. It starts with public perception. And somewhere along the way, the WNBA Players Association made a series of strategic errors that are now compounding into a full-blown crisis. Because here's the reality nobody wants to say out loud. The elephant in the room that everyone sees but few will name. The WNBA just experienced unprecedented growth. Record ratings. Record attendance. Record merchandise sales. Record everything. And everyone knows why. One name. One player. One phenomenon that changed everything overnight. Caitlin Clark. Now you can debate the fairness of that. You can argue about all the other talented players who deserve credit. You can talk about the years of foundation building that made this moment possible. But you cannot, and I mean cannot, pretend that this growth would have happened without her. The numbers don't lie. The ratings don't lie. The empty arenas before she arrived versus the packed houses after. Those don't lie. Yet the Players Association is out here acting like this is some collective achievement. Like the rising tide that lifted all boats was created by everyone equally. And the public? They're not buying it. Not anymore. We just saw two major developments drop in the last 24 hours that suggest this whole thing is reaching a breaking point. The walls aren't just closing in, they're about to crush any remaining leverage the players thought they had. But before we get there, you need to understand exactly how we arrived at this moment. Because this didn't happen overnight. This was a slow-motion disaster that anyone paying attention could see coming. It started with a decision. A choice that seemed smart at the time but might go down as one of the biggest strategic blunders in sports labor history. The players opted out of the CBA early. They had years left on their deal. But they saw the growth. They saw the momentum. They saw Caitlin Clark bringing in fans by the millions. And they wanted their cut. Right now. Not later. No. On paper it makes sense. Strike while the iron is hot. Negotiate from a position of strength. Cash in on the boom. But they made one critical miscalculation. One fatal error in judgment that's now unraveling everything. They forgot that leverage isn't just about revenue growth. It's about public perception. It's about optics. It's about controlling the narrative. And somewhere between opting out early and now, they lost control of that narrative completely. Here's where it all started to fall apart. Picture this. The WNBA All-Star Game. One of the biggest stages of the season. National television. Millions watching. The perfect opportunity to showcase why these players deserve more money. The players walk out wearing shirts that say, "Pay us what you owe us." Bold statement. Powerful message. The kind of thing that could galvanize public support and put pressure on the owners. Except, then the game started. And what followed was, let's be generous here, not exactly a showcase of elite professional basketball. It was forgettable, lackadaisical, low effort, the kind of game that made casual fans reach for their remotes. You cannot, and I cannot stress this enough, you cannot demand a pay raise while simultaneously putting in minimal effort on one of your biggest platforms. Candace Parker saw it immediately, and she didn't hold back. Y'all cannot come out there with those shirts of "Pay us what you owe us" and then do that in the All-Star game. She understood something fundamental that the Players Association apparently didn't. Optics matter. Perception is reality. You're not just negotiating with owners in a boardroom, you're negotiating with the public who has to believe you deserve what you're asking for. That All-Star game was the first crack in the foundation. The first moment where fans started thinking, wait, maybe they're not handling this the right way. But it didn't stop there. Oh no, that was just the beginning. Because the Players Association then made an even bigger mistake. They let Sadhu Sabali become the voice of the movement. Now, Sadhu is a talented player. No question. But when you're in the middle of delicate negotiations, when billions of dollars are on the line, when public perception is everything, you need to be very careful about your messaging. So what did Sadhu say? The league made a proposal. A proposal that included a maximum salary of $1.2 million and an average salary of $500,000. And Sadhu's response? She called it a slap in the face. A slap in the face. Let those words sink in for a moment. A maximum salary of over $1 million in a league that was struggling to stay afloat just a few years ago, in a league where most teams still don't turn a profit. And the player response is that it's insulting. Now I get it. From the player's perspective, they see revenue growing. They see arenas filling up. They see merchandise flying off shelves. They want their fair share. That's completely reasonable. But calling $1 million salary offer a slap in the face to a general public where the median household income is around $75,000? To nurses and teachers and construction workers who are scraping by? That's not just bad optics. That's tone deaf. That's strategic suicide. Rebecca Lobo recognized this immediately. That's why she issued her warning. If you're working whatever job, a max salary of $1.2 million, average salary of $500,000, if you don't think it's fair, that's fine, but don't call it a slap in the face. She gets it. You can negotiate for more. You can push for better terms. You can stand firm on your worth. But the words you choose matter. The way you frame it matters. Because once the public starts thinking you're ungrateful, entitled, out of touch, you've lost them. And once you lose the public, you lose your leverage. The owners can wait you out. They can let you sit. They can let the pressure build. Because now they know the fans aren't going to revolt. The fans aren't going to boycott. The fans are starting to side with them. When has that ever happened in a sports labor dispute? When do fans ever side with billionaire owners over the players? But it's happening right now. In real time. And the Players Association seems completely oblivious to it. They keep doubling down on messaging that's pushing fans further away. They keep acting like this growth was inevitable. Like Caitlin Clark was just a coincidence. Like they were all equally responsible for the WNBA's explosion in popularity. And that brings us to perhaps the most delusional piece of propaganda I've seen in this entire negotiation. The WNBA Players Association Instagram account posted something recently that made me question whether they're living in the same reality as the rest of us. They posted images suggesting that fans are tuning in to watch A'ja Wilson and Alyssa Thomas. That these players are the driving force behind the viewership surge. That the attention is spread equally across the league's stars. Now, A'ja Wilson is an incredible player. MVP. Champion. Dominant force. Alyssa Thomas is a beast on both ends of the floor. Both are absolutely elite at what they do. But are they the reason casual fans started paying attention to the WNBA? Are they the reason ratings exploded? Are they the reason the league suddenly has mainstream relevance? Come on. The WNBA Finals, which featured A'ja Wilson, just happened. We have the numbers. We know what people watched. And when you compare those finals ratings to the attention Caitlin Clark generates, even in exhibition games, even in preseason, even in games that don't matter, it's not even close. There's actually evidence suggesting that more people watched the Fever's exhibition game against Brazil than watched the WNBA Finals. Read that again. An exhibition game versus the championship. And the exhibition might have drawn more viewers. What? Because of who was playing in it? This is the reality the Players Association is refusing to acknowledge. And that refusal is killing their negotiating position. Because if you can't be honest about why you suddenly have leverage, if you can't acknowledge the actual source of your newfound value, then why should anyone trust your assessment of what you deserve? It's like watching someone win the lottery and then claim they earned it through hard work. The lack of self-awareness is staggering. And it's costing them everything. But here's where it gets even worse. Because the Players Association had a backup plan. A safety net. A way to maintain pressure on the league even if negotiations dragged on. They called it Unrivaled. Unrivaled was supposed to be the trump card. A new 3-on-3 league. Higher pay. Better conditions. A chance for WNBA players to make money during the off-season without having to fly overseas. Premium production. Big-name investors. Prime television slots. But more importantly, and this is the part nobody's saying out loud, it was supposed to be leverage. Think about it. If the WNBA season doesn't start because of a lockout, the players can just keep playing in Unrivaled. They keep making money. They keep their conditioning. They stay in the public eye. They maintain relevance. Meanwhile, the WNBA owners are bleeding money with empty arenas and no product to sell. The pressure mounts. They cave. The players win. That was the theory anyway. Brilliant strategy, right? Create an alternative. Show the owners you have options. Prove you're not desperate. Negotiate from a position of strength. Except there was one tiny problem they didn't account for. Nobody's watching Unrivaled. I'm not talking about modest ratings. I'm not talking about needs time to build an audience. I'm talking about a complete and total viewership disaster. The numbers are so bad that networks are probably having emergency meetings. Sponsors are nervously checking their contracts. And the players? They're realizing their safety net has a giant hole in it. Because here's the brutal truth that Unrivaled just confirmed. The casual fans, the ones who drove the WNBA's growth, the ones who packed arenas, the ones who bought jerseys and drove ratings through the roof, they don't actually care about women's basketball as a whole. They care about Caitlin Clark. Not Asia Wilson. Not Brianna Stewart. Not Alyssa Thomas. Not even the game itself in its purest form. They care about watching Caitlin. And without her they're just not interested. Unrivaled doesn't have Caitlin. She's not playing. She's sitting out, resting, preparing for the next WNBA season, if there is one. So the casual fans? They're not tuning in. They're not buying League Pass. They're not setting reminders. They're not engaging. Which means Unrivaled isn't just failing as a basketball league. It's failing as a leverage tool. It's exposing the one thing the Players Association desperately needed to keep hidden. The growth wasn't about all of them. It was about one of them. And she's the one player who doesn't need Unrivaled. She's the one player who has all the leverage. She's the one player who could sit out an entire season and still have more endorsement money than she knows what to do with. Natasha Cloud went on record saying the players could hold out indefinitely. That they could just keep playing in Unrivaled. That they didn't need the WNBA as much as the WNBA needed them. Bold words. Confident words. The kind of statement you make when you think you hold all the cards. But Natasha, the ratings just came in. And they're telling a very different story. Because if Unrivaled was actually drawing viewers, if people were actually tuning in to watch WNBA players compete at a high level regardless of who was on the court, then yeah, maybe the players could hold out. Maybe they could wait out the owners. Maybe they could maintain pressure. But that's not what's happening. Not even close. The silence from Unrivaled's promotional team has been deafening. No victory laps about viewership. No bragging about engagement numbers. No press releases celebrating their success. Just crickets. You know what that means in the media world? It means the numbers are catastrophic. Because if they were good, we'd never hear the end of it. So now the players are stuck. Their backup plan is failing. Their public support is eroding. Their messaging is tone deaf. Their leverage is evaporating. And the owners? They're just sitting back watching this unfold, knowing that every day that passes, every Unrivaled game that nobody watches, every Instagram post that backfires, it all strengthens their position. Time is no longer on the players' side. The clock that was supposed to pressure the owners is now counting down against the players. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Rebecca Lobo can see it. That's why she issued her warning. She's trying to tell them, you're losing this. You need to change course. Now. But here's the thing about momentum in negotiations. Once it shifts, it's almost impossible to get it back. The players started this process thinking they had all the leverage. Record growth, mainstream attention, full arenas, celebrity fans. corporate sponsors lining up. They thought they could demand anything and the league would have to pay up. But they misread the situation. They misunderstood the source of their value. They overestimated the public's patience. And they underestimated how quickly sentiment could turn against them. Now they're in a position where accepting a deal looks like defeat. But holding out risks everything. Because what happens if there's a lockout? What happens if the season doesn't start on time? What happens if Caitlin Clark misses games or worse, loses interest entirely? What happens if the casual fans who finally started paying attention to women's basketball decide it's not worth the drama and just leave? The WNBA spent 25 years building to this moment. 25 years of grinding, of fighting for respect, of slowly building a fan base, of proving women's basketball deserved investment. And then in one magical season, everything changed. The breakthrough happened. The mainstream moment arrived. But it arrived because of one specific player. And now the Players Association is risking it all by refusing to acknowledge that reality. They're playing a dangerous game. A game where the stakes couldn't be higher. A game where one wrong move could set the league back a decade. And based on what I've seen in the last 24 hours, I think they're finally starting to realize it. Because two new pieces of information just dropped. Two developments that suggest this standoff is about to reach its conclusion. And neither one is good news for the players. The first development came from an unexpected source. Sports business reporters started leaking details about internal discussions within the Players Association. And what they revealed should send chills down the spine of every player who's been holding the line on these negotiations. There's fracturing happening. Division. Disagreement. Not all the players are on board with the hardline approach. Not everyone thinks rejecting the league's proposal was smart. Not everyone believes this is a fight worth risking everything for. And that's a death sentence for union solidarity. See, in any labor negotiation, the most powerful weapon the workers have is unity. If everyone stands together, if nobody breaks ranks, if the resolve is absolute, that's when you have real leverage. But the moment doubt creeps in, the moment some players start thinking, maybe we should have taken the deal, the moment veteran players start worrying about losing another season while their careers tick away, that's when the owners smell blood in the water. And according to these reports, the owners are circling. Because here's what's happening behind closed doors. The star players, the ones with endorsement deals, the ones with financial security, the ones who can afford to sit out a season, they're the ones pushing the hardline stance. But the role players? The ones on the back end of the roster? The ones who desperately need that WNBA paycheck because they don't have shoe deals and national commercials? They're getting nervous, really nervous. They're looking at their bank accounts. They're looking at their bills. They're looking at opportunities slipping away. And they're starting to ask uncomfortable questions. Is this really worth it? Are we really going to risk losing a season over this? Is the gap between what they're offering and what we're demanding actually worth throwing everything away? And once those questions start getting asked out loud, once players start having sidebar conversations, once the whispers turn into actual dissent, the union's power collapses. The owners know this. They've been through labor disputes before. They know exactly how this plays out. They don't need to win over all the players. They just need to create enough doubt, enough division, enough desperation among the rank-and-file players that the union's resolve cracks. And from what these reporters are saying, those cracks are already forming. Some players are reportedly furious that they weren't consulted before the union rejected the league's proposal. They found out from social media, from news reports, from watching Sada Sabali call it a slap in the face on camera. Imagine that. You're a player making $60,000 a year. You're barely scraping by. You're sacrificing your body for this league. You're playing overseas just to make ends meet. And then your union leadership rejects an offer that would more than triple your salary, without even asking your opinion first. How would you feel? Would you be ready to hold the line in solidarity? Or would you be Googling how to decertify a union? This is the second crack in the foundation. The first was public perception. Now it's internal unity. And when both of those start to crumble, the end comes quickly. But here's the second development. And this one might be even more damaging. Caitlin Clark finally spoke. Not extensively. Not a full press conference. But enough. Just enough to send a very clear message about where she stands on all of this. And what she said, or more importantly what she didn't say, should terrify the Players Association. Because Caitlin has been noticeably, strategically quiet throughout this entire negotiation. She hasn't joined the protests. She hasn't worn the shirts. She hasn't made inflammatory statements about the owners. She's just stayed out of it. Now you could interpret that as neutrality. as not wanting to rock the boat, as a rookie knowing her place. But I think it's something else entirely. I think Caitlin Clark has realized something the rest of the Players Association hasn't. She knows exactly where her leverage lies. She knows exactly what she's worth. And she knows she doesn't need to go to war with the league to get what she deserves. Because here's the reality. Caitlin Clark could negotiate her own deal tomorrow and the league would give her whatever she wants. They'd create a supermax contract specifically for her. They'd restructure the entire salary cap. They'd find loopholes, exemptions, special provisions, whatever it takes to keep her happy and on the court. She's not like the other players. She's not interchangeable. She's not replaceable. She is the product right now. She is the draw. She is the reason this negotiation is even happening. And in her recent comments, she made it very clear she wants to play. She's ready to play. She's eager to get back on the court. She didn't express solidarity with the hardline negotiating stance. She didn't rail against the owners. She didn't call anything a slap in the face. She just said she's ready to hoop. Now read between the lines. What's she really saying? I don't need this fight. I'll get mine regardless. Let's play basketball. And if Caitlin Clark decides she's tired of waiting, if she decides to publicly push for a deal to get done, if she starts putting pressure on her own union to accept terms and get back on the court, game over. The Players Association would have no choice but to fold. Because they cannot, under any circumstances, afford to have Caitlin Clark positioned against them. The optics would be catastrophic. The fan backlash would be immediate. The leverage would disappear overnight. Imagine the headlines, Caitlin Clark wants to play, but union holding season hostage. How long do you think the other players could hold out after that? So now the Players Association is caught in a vice. Public support eroding. Internal unity fracturing. Their biggest star sending signals that she's ready to move on. Their backup plan failing spectacularly. And the walls keep closing in. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Rebecca Lobo tried to warn them. She sent up the flare. She gave them the signal. You're losing this fight, change course while you still can. But here's the problem with momentum in negotiations. Once you stake out a public position, once you make dramatic statements, once you reject offers and call them insulting, backing down looks like surrender. The Players Association painted themselves into a corner. And now they're desperately looking for an exit that lets them save face while accepting a deal that's probably worse than what they could have gotten months ago. Because that's what happens when you lose the PR battle. That's what happens when you mismanage negotiations. That's what happens when you let ego override strategy. You end up with less than you started with. But there's still one more factor in all of this. One more element that could blow up the entire negotiation and send this thing into complete chaos. And it involves the one person everyone's been watching but nobody's been talking about. The commissioner, Cathy Engelbert. She's been playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. And almost nobody has noticed. Because while the players and owners have been locked in this very public battle, while social media has been dissecting every statement and analyzing every leak, Cathy Engelbert has been working a completely different angle. She's been talking to the television networks. And what she's been telling them should make the Players Association very, very uncomfortable. See, here's what most people don't understand about professional sports leagues. The real power doesn't lie with the players. It doesn't even lie with the owners, not entirely. The real power lies with the broadcast partners. The networks, the streaming services, the media companies who pay billions of dollars for the rights to show games. Because without that TV money, none of this works. Not the salaries, not the arenas, not the chartered flights, nothing. The WNBA just signed new media deals. Massive deals. Historic deals. The kind of money that seemed impossible just a few years ago. ESPN, CBS, Amazon, NBC, they all ponied up. They all bet big on women's basketball. They all committed to broadcasting more games, promoting the league, treating it like a major property. But here's the thing about those deals. They're contingent on one very important factor. Games actually being played. If there's a lockout, if the season gets delayed, if games get canceled, those networks have options. Outs. Ways to reduce their payments. Clauses that protect their investment. And more importantly, they have influence. Because Cathy Engelbert just spent months convincing these media executives that the WNBA is worth their investment. That the growth is real. That the audience will show up. That this isn't a flash in the pan. She staked her reputation on it. She sold them on the vision. She got them to commit hundreds of millions of dollars. And now she's having follow-up conversations. Conversations where the network executives are asking very pointed questions. When does the season start? Are we going to have games to broadcast? Should we be worried about this lockout? What's your plan to get this resolved? And in those conversations, Cathy Engelbert has been sending a very clear message. A message that, according to sources close to the negotiations, is being relayed directly to the owners. Get this done. Whatever it takes. We cannot afford to lose this momentum. But here's where it gets interesting. She's not just pressuring the owners. She's applying pressure from a completely different direction. She's reminding the networks exactly why they made these investments in the first place. One name. One player. One generational talent who changed everything. Caitlin Clark. The network executives aren't stupid. They've seen the ratings. They know what games drew viewers and what games didn't. They know what jersey sales look like. They know what social media engagement shows. They invested in the WNBA because Caitlin Clark made it relevant to casual sports fans. Period. So when Cathy Engelbert is having these conversations, when she's reassuring them that the season will start on time, when she's promising that the product will deliver, there's an implicit understanding. Caitlin Clark better be on the court. Not sitting out because of a lockout. Not missing games because of a contract dispute. Not caught in the crossfire of a labor war. Court. And if the Players Association does anything that jeopardizes that, the networks will remember. The sponsors will remember. The league will remember. This is the leverage nobody's talking about. This is the pressure that's being applied behind closed doors. This is why I said at the beginning of this video that the walls are closing in. Because the Players Association isn't just negotiating with the owners anymore. They're negotiating against the networks, against the sponsors, against the entire media ecosystem that just invested hundreds of millions of dollars based on the promise of Caitlin Clark playing basketball. And that ecosystem is getting nervous. You can see it in the subtle shifts happening in sports media coverage. Analysts who were supportive of the players are starting to ask harder questions. Journalists who were sympathetic are starting to write more critical pieces. The narrative is shifting. And in the media business, once the narrative shifts, it's almost impossible to shift it back. Rebecca Lobo's warning wasn't just about public perception among fans. It was about perception among the people who actually control the money. The decision makers. The executives who can make or break careers with a phone call. And those executives are starting to lose patience. There's a reason Sophie Cunningham sounded so frustrated. There's a reason some players are reportedly having second thoughts. There's a reason the unity is fracturing. They're hearing things. Whispers. Warnings. Messages being passed through agents and team executives and league officials. This needs to end. Soon. Because here's what happens if it doesn't. If the players hold out, if there's a prolonged lockout, if the season gets delayed or canceled, the networks start making contingency plans. They reduce their payments based on contractual clauses. They shift programming. They fill those time slots with other content. The sponsors get nervous and start redirecting their marketing budgets. The casual fans lose interest and move on to something else. The momentum evaporates. And suddenly all that growth? All that progress? All that mainstream attention the WNBA finally achieved after 25 years? Gone. Not just paused. Not just delayed. Gone. Because here's the brutal truth about mainstream sports fandom. It's fickle. It's fragile. It's based on habit and convenience and availability. You cannot ask casual fans to wait. You cannot ask them to be patient. You cannot ask them to care about labor negotiations and CBA structures and revenue sharing percentages. They just want to watch Caitlin Clark play basketball. And if she's not playing because of a lockout, they'll watch something else. And they might not come back. The Players Association is gambling with the future of the entire league. They're betting that they can hold out, apply pressure, and force the owners to give them a better deal. But what they don't realize is that every day this drags on, every week without a resolution, every news cycle dominated by conflict instead of basketball, it's eroding the very foundation of value they're trying to cash in on. You can't demand a bigger slice of the pie while simultaneously destroying the pie. And that's exactly what's happening right now. The owners know it. Cathy Engelbert knows it. The networks know it. Rebecca Lobo knows it. The question is, does the Players Association know it? Or are they so committed to their position, so invested in their messaging, so convinced of their righteousness that they can't see the cliff they're racing toward? Let me tell you about something that happened 48 hours ago that nobody's really talking about. A group of veteran players, names you'd recognize, champions, all-stars, the supposed leaders of this league, had a private Zoom call. No union officials. No agents. No media. Just players who've been in the league for years, talking about what's really happening. And according to someone who was on that call, it got heated. Really heated. Because the veterans are starting to realize something terrifying. They're running out of time. Not negotiation time. Career time. Diana Taurasi is 42 years old. Sue Bird just retired. Sylvia Fowles is gone. This generation of players who built the league, who kept it alive during the lean years, who sacrificed everything, they're watching their final seasons tick away. And for what? For a labor dispute where they have almost no leverage? One veteran reportedly said something on that call that sent shockwaves through the group. She said, "We're letting a 22-year-old's popularity dictate our entire negotiation strategy, and she's not even backing us up." Boom. There it is. The thing nobody wants to say publicly. The entire strategy was built around Caitlin Clark's impact. The timing of opting out early. The aggressive demands. The public posturing. All of it was predicated on riding the wave Caitlin created. But Caitlin never asked for this fight. She never signed up to be the union's bargaining chip. She never agreed to be the face of their labor movement. And now she's signaling that she just wants to play basketball. The veterans on that call are starting to see the writing on the wall. They bet everything on leveraging Caitlin's popularity, but they never secured Caitlin's support. It's like planning a revolution and forgetting to check if your army is actually going to show up. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Because there's another dynamic at play that's poisoning the entire negotiation. Resentment. Deep, bitter, barely concealed resentment. The players who've been in this league for years, grinding it out for $50,000 salaries, playing in empty arenas, getting ignored by mainstream media, they're watching a rookie come in and change everything overnight. And yeah, they're benefiting from it. Their salaries are going up. Their visibility is increasing. Their careers are suddenly more valuable. But it stings. It stings that they needed Caitlin Clark to make people care. It stings that their years of excellence weren't enough. It stings that one player's arrival did more for the league in one season than they did in their entire careers. You can hear it in their statements. You can see it in their body language. You can feel it in the way they talk about the players that are in our league right now. They want the benefits of Caitlin's impact without acknowledging that impact. They want the money her popularity generates without admitting she's the one generating it. And that cognitive dissonance is destroying their negotiation strategy. Because you cannot simultaneously argue that you deserve more money because of unprecedented growth and pretend that growth was a collective achievement. The math doesn't work. The logic doesn't hold. The narrative falls apart. The owners see through it. The media sees through it. Most importantly, the fans see through it. And now there's a new problem emerging. Something that could torpedo not just the negotiation, but the entire league's future. Angel Reese just made comments suggesting she might sit out the season regardless of whether there's a deal. Think about what that means. One of the league's most marketable young stars, someone who's supposed to be the future, is already talking about not playing. And she's not alone. Other young players are making similar noises, talking about their options, mentioning overseas leagues, discussing other opportunities. This is supposed to be their moment. The young generation that's going to carry the torch. The players who should be most excited about the league's growth. And they're already looking for exits. What? Because they see what's happening. They see a union that's fumbling the biggest opportunity in league history. They see leadership that's more interested in pride than progress. They see a negotiation that's spiraling toward disaster. And they're hedging their bets. The problem is, when young stars start talking about sitting out, when they start exploring alternatives, when they signal that they're not fully committed, that terrifies sponsors. Nike doesn't want to invest millions in marketing campaigns for players who might not play. Gatorade doesn't want endorsement deals with athletes who are threatening to sit out. State Farm doesn't want to build commercials around stars who might be absent. And those sponsors? They talk to each other. They share concerns. They compare notes. Right now, in corporate boardrooms across America, marketing executives are having very uncomfortable conversations about their WNBA investments. Should we pull back? Should we wait and see? Should we redirect that budget somewhere else? Every day without a deal, those conversations get more serious. Every inflammatory statement from players, those executives get more nervous. Every sign of dysfunction, those checkbooks close a little tighter. This is the death spiral nobody wants to talk about. Lost momentum leads to lost sponsors. Lost sponsors means less money. Less money means worse conditions. Worse conditions means players leave. Players leaving means fans lose interest. Fans losing interest means lost momentum. Round and round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. But I know where it started. It started with a miscalculation. A fundamental misread of the situation. The Players Association thought they held all the cards. They thought the growth was permanent. They thought the attention was locked in. They thought they could push and push and push without consequences. They were wrong. Dead wrong. And now they're trapped. They can't back down without looking weak. They can't hold out without risking everything. They can't unify because the fractures are too deep. They can't win public support because they've lost the narrative. Checkmate. Or at least, it would be checkmate if this was actually a chess match. But this isn't chess. This is Russian roulette. And the Players Association just clicked on another empty chamber. Because something happened yesterday that changes everything. Something that proves the owners have been 3 steps ahead this entire time. They leaked the actual numbers. Not projections. Not estimates. Not hopeful forecasts. The real, actual revenue numbers from last season. And those numbers tell a very different story than what the Players Association has been selling. Yes, revenue was up. Way up. Nobody's disputing that. Yes, attendance exploded. Yes, merchandise sales skyrocketed. Yes, the league had its best year ever. But here's what the Players Association didn't want anyone to know. Here's the secret they've been desperately trying to keep buried. Most teams still lost money. Even with Caitlin Clark. Even with packed arenas. Even with record ratings. The majority of WNBA franchises operated at a loss. How is that possible? How can you have your best year ever and still lose money? Welcome to the economics of professional sports. Where success doesn't always equal profit. Where growth requires investment. Where building a sustainable league takes more than one good season. The infrastructure costs exploded. Security had to be increased for larger crowds. Travel expenses went up. Marketing budgets expanded. Staff had to be hired. Facilities had to be upgraded. All the things required to handle unprecedented growth. They cost money. A lot of money. And that's before we even talk about the chartered flights the players demanded. Before we mention the practice facilities they want. Before we discuss the marketing investments they expect. The owners have been absorbing these losses for years. Decades in some cases. Betting on the future. Investing in potential. Waiting for the breakthrough. And just when that breakthrough finally arrives, just when there's a light at the end of the tunnel, just when they might actually start seeing returns on their investment, the players want it all. Not some of it. Not a fair share. All of it. The leaked documents show the players' demands would actually put several franchises at risk of folding. Not struggling. Not barely surviving. Folding. Disappearing. Gone. Think about that. The Players Association is demanding terms that could literally destroy the teams that employ them. It's economic suicide disguised as empowerment. And now that these numbers are public, now that fans can see the actual math, the narrative has completely flipped. The players look greedy, unreasonable, detached from reality. The owners look patient, reasonable, trying to build something sustainable. This leak wasn't an accident. This was calculated. This was strategic. This was the owners playing their ace. Because now every sports journalist has these numbers. Every analyst has this data. Every talking head has ammunition. And they're using it. The coverage has shifted dramatically in the last 24 hours. Articles that were sympathetic to players are now questioning their demands. Podcasts that supported the union are now examining the financials. Social media that was pro-player is now doing the math. And the math doesn't support what the players are asking for. But here's the truly devastating part. The part that should have the Players Association in full panic mode. The owners didn't just leak the overall numbers. They leaked team-specific data. And that data shows something shocking. The Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark's team, generated more revenue than the next 3 teams combined. Let that sink in. One team. One player really. Carrying the entire league financially. The Las Vegas Aces with A'ja Wilson the MVP, the best player in the league? Their revenue doesn't even come close. The Connecticut Sun? The Minnesota Lynx? The Phoenix Mercury? They're footnotes compared to what Caitlin Clark generated in Indiana. This isn't just about star power. This is about economic reality. And that reality is that without Caitlin Clark, most of these teams go back to being financial disasters. The owners know it. The sponsors know it. Hell, deep down the players know it too. But they can't admit it. They've gone too far down this road. They've made too many statements. They've taken too strong a position. Pride is a hell of a drug. And it's about to cost them everything. Because there's one more piece of information that leaked. One detail that nobody's talking about yet, but that could blow this whole thing wide open. The owners have been having secret conversations with someone whose involvement could completely change the dynamics of this negotiation. Someone who has more money than all the current owners combined. Someone who's been watching this situation closely. Someone who's ready to make a move. I'm talking about a potential new owner. A buyer who's interested in purchasing a team, or maybe even multiple teams, if the price is right. And the price gets a lot more right if there's a lockout. If franchise values drop. If current owners get desperate. This mystery buyer has one condition. One non-negotiable requirement for their investment. Caitlin Clark has to be playing. They're not interested in buying into a league without its biggest star. They're not investing in potential or history or social justice or any other narrative. They want return on investment. They want packed arenas. They want television ratings. They want merchandise sales. They want Caitlin Clark. And if the Players Association causes a lockout, if they drive Caitlin away, if they damage the product, this buyer walks. But if the owners can resolve this situation, if they can get the players back on the court, if they can maintain the momentum, this buyer is ready to write checks that would transform the league. We're talking about infrastructure investments, new practice facilities, better travel accommodations, increased marketing budgets, everything the players say they want. But it all hinges on ending this negotiation. Now, the owners know this. Kathy Engelbert knows this. And I think some players are starting to figure it out too. That's why you're seeing the cracks in solidarity. That's why you're hearing whispers of compromise. That's why Rebecca Lobo issued her warning. The smart players, the ones who understand business, they can see what's happening. They can feel the ground shifting beneath their feet. The leverage is gone. The momentum is lost. The window is closing. Tick, tock, tick, tock. But there's still a faction within the union that refuses to accept reality. The hardliners. The true believers. The ones who would rather burn it all down than compromise. They're the ones still posting on social media about knowing your worth. They're the ones still talking about disrespect and slaps in the face. They're the ones still pretending this is about all of them and not about one player who changed everything. And they're about to learn a very hard lesson about how professional sports actually works. The lesson is already being taught. And the teacher is someone nobody expected. LeBron James. Yeah, you heard that right. The king himself just entered the conversation. And what he said sent shockwaves through the entire sports world. LeBron was asked about the WNBA negotiation during a press conference. A throwaway question, really. The reporter probably expected a generic, "I support the players" response. That's not what they got. Instead, LeBron James, the same man who led NBA player empowerment, who fought for player rights, who changed how athletes negotiate, basically told the WNBA players to be careful. His exact words were diplomatic, measured, careful. But reading between the lines? He was sending a warning. Sometimes you gotta know when to hold them and know when to fold them. The growth is real, but growth takes time to become profit. I learned that the hard way. The hard way. LeBron James, one of the most powerful athletes in the world, admitted he learned about negotiation the hard way. And what was that hard lesson? What did he learn that he's now trying to pass on to the WNBA players? That leverage is temporary. That public support is fragile. That sometimes taking the deal on the table is better than risking everything for a marginally better deal. He learned it during the 2011 NBA lockout. When the players held out. When they thought they had all the leverage. When they were sure the owners would cave. The owners didn't cave. The players lost games. Lost paychecks. Lost momentum. And when they finally settled, they got a worse deal than what was originally offered. 53% of revenue instead of 57%. Stricter luxury tax. Shorter contracts. Less flexibility. They held out for more and ended up with less. Sound familiar? LeBron sees the same pattern happening here. The same overconfidence. The same miscalculation. The same march toward disaster. And he's trying to warn them. Subtly. Carefully. But clearly. The problem is, when LeBron James speaks about basketball labor negotiations, people listen. Owners listen. Media listens. Fans listen. And most importantly, agents listen. Which brings us to the nuclear bomb that's about to go off in this entire situation. The agents are revolt. Not publicly. Not officially. But behind closed doors, agents are having very serious conversations with their clients about the direction of this negotiation. Because agents don't get paid if players don't play. Agents don't get commissions on contracts that don't exist. Agents don't benefit from lockouts and labor disputes and canceled seasons. They need games. They need salaries. They need endorsement opportunities. And right now, they're watching the Players Association torch all of those things. One prominent agent who represents multiple all-stars reportedly told their clients point blank, The union is costing you millions. Not thousands. Millions. Because it's not just about the WNBA salary. It's about the lost endorsement opportunities, the damaged relationships with sponsors, the evaporating goodwill from fans. Every day this drags on, every inflammatory statement, every sign of dysfunction, it damages the players' individual brands. And in modern sports, your brand is everything. Caitlin Clark understands this. That's why she's been silent. That's why she's staying neutral. That's why she's protecting her brand while others are destroying theirs. She's playing the long game, building relationships with sponsors, maintaining fan support, positioning herself as the reasonable one, the professional, the player who just wants to play. When this is all over, when the dust settles, who do you think sponsors will want to work with? The player who stayed above the fray, or the players who called million-dollar offers slaps in the face? The agents see this. They're doing the math, and they're telling their clients, enough is enough. Some agents are even exploring a nuclear option. Something that would completely destroy the Players Association's position. Decertification. If enough players vote to decertify the union, the entire collective bargaining process ends. Players can negotiate individual contracts. Teams can make separate deals. And guess who would benefit most from that? The stars. The players who actually generate revenue. The Caitlin Clarks of the world. They'd get paid their true market value. No salary caps. No maximum contracts. No sharing revenue with players nobody's paying to see. It's the ultimate free market solution. And it's the Players Association's worst nightmare. Because if decertification happens, if the union dissolves, the role players get destroyed. The bench players get minimum offers. The veterans get pushed out. Only the stars survive. Only the draws get paid. Only the players fans actually care about matter. Would be brutal. Darwinian. Completely cutthroat. And some agents are suggesting it might be better than what the union is currently doing. This is how bad things have gotten. When agents are discussing union decertification, when they're actively working against the collective bargaining process, when they're telling clients the union is the enemy, you know the situation is desperate. But wait, it gets worse. Because there's another player in this game. Someone who's been watching from the shadows. Someone with the power to end this instantly. And they're about to make their move. I'm talking about the NBA. The National Basketball Association has been the WNBA's biggest supporter. Financial backer. Big brother. Safety net. NBA owners have been subsidizing WNBA teams for years. NBA arenas host WNBA games. NBA marketing helps promote WNBA players. Without the NBA, the WNBA doesn't exist. Period. And the NBA is getting nervous. They're watching this negotiation spiral out of control. They're seeing the damage to the brand. They're worried about the impact on their own reputation. And according to multiple sources, Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, has been having conversations with Kathy Engelbert. Very serious conversations. The message is clear. Figure this out. Fast. Or we might have to reconsider our involvement. The NBA can't afford to be associated with a failed league. They can't have their brand damaged by a labor dispute that makes everyone look bad. They can't keep subsidizing chaos. And if the WNBA can't get its house in order, if the players and owners can't reach a deal, if this turns into a prolonged lockout, the NBA might pull back. Not completely. Not all at once. But enough to matter. Reduced financial support. Less marketing assistance. Fewer shared resources. Death by 1,000 cuts. The Players Association probably doesn't even realize this threat exists. They're so focused on fighting the WNBA owners, they forgot the WNBA owners aren't the only ones with power here. The NBA has power. The networks have power. The sponsors have power. The fans have power. And all of them are losing patience. 3 hours ago, something happened that nobody's reporting yet. An emergency meeting. Virtual. Completely off the books. No official record it even occurred. But it did. And what was discussed in that meeting might be the final nail in the coffin for the Players Association's negotiating position. The attendees? Every major WNBA sponsor. Nike, Google, Deloitte, AT&T, CarMax. Every corporate partner who's invested millions into this league. They didn't invite the Players Association. They didn't invite the owners. They didn't even invite Kathy Engelbert. Just corporate executives. Just decision makers. Just the people who actually control where marketing dollars go. And they reached a conclusion. A unanimous, terrifying conclusion. If there's a lockout, they're pulling their money. Not reducing it. Not restructuring it. Pulling it. Gone. redirected to other properties, other leagues, other investments that don't come with labor drama. One executive reportedly said, "We invested in growth, not grievance." Brutal. Corporate. But that's business. And the WNBA players are about to learn that business doesn't care about your feelings, your principles, or your sense of fairness. Business cares about return on investment. And right now, the WNBA is looking like a bad investment. The sponsors have already drafted the press releases. They're already prepared to announce their reassessment of marketing partnerships. They're already identifying where to redirect those dollars. The NWSL is suddenly looking very attractive. Women's tennis is having a moment. Women's golf is growing. There are other options. Other places to put money. Other athletes to support. Athletes who aren't calling million-dollar salaries insulting. Athletes who appreciate corporate investment. Athletes who understand that partnership means actually being partners. This information hasn't leaked yet, but it will. Probably in the next 24 to 48 hours. And when it does, when players realize that sponsors are ready to walk, when they understand that the money they're fighting over might disappear entirely, panic will set in. Real panic. The kind that breaks unions. The kind that ends holdouts. The kind that forces capitulation. But there's something even more devastating happening. Something that strikes at the very heart of what the Players Association claims to be fighting for. The younger generation is turning against them. Not just Angel Reese. Not just the rookies. But high school players. College players. The future of the women's game. They're watching this unfold and making business decisions. Several top high school recruits have reportedly told their families they're reconsidering playing basketball professionally. They're looking at other sports, other careers, other opportunities that don't involve this level of dysfunction. Why would a 17-year-old phenom want to join a league that might lock out? Why would they invest their future in an organization that can't get its act together? Why would they choose the WNBA when there are other paths to success? One parent of a 5-star recruit said something that should terrify everyone involved in women's basketball. "My daughter can make more money as a college athlete with nil deals than she can as a WNBA rookie. And without the drama." Think about that. College athletes are out earning professionals. And they don't have to deal with union politics, labor disputes, or lockout threats. The pipeline of talent that the WNBA depends on is starting to look elsewhere. And once that pipeline redirects, once young athletes choose different paths, it's almost impossible to get them back. But here's the single most devastating development. The thing that should have the Players Association scrambling for a deal right now. Caitlin Clark just signed something. Not a statement. Not a petition. Not a union document. A contract. A massive, multi-year deal with a production company to create content. Shows. Documentaries. Media projects. Projects that don't require the WNBA. Projects that don't need the league to exist. Projects that establish her as a media personality independent of basketball. She's building her exit ramp. Right in front of everyone. In broad daylight. And she's not being subtle about it. The message is crystal clear: I don't need you as much as you need me. If the WNBA locks out, Caitlin Clark will be just fine. She'll make content. She'll do appearances. She'll build her brand outside of basketball. But what happens to the WNBA without Caitlin Clark on the court? What happens to attendance? What happens to ratings? What happens to merchandise sales? What happens to everything? The answer is obvious and devastating. The league goes back to what it was before she arrived. Empty arenas, minimal media coverage, financial losses, irrelevance, 25 years of slow, grinding progress, erased in an instant. All because the Players Association couldn't read the room, couldn't understand their actual leverage, couldn't separate ego from strategy. And now, with less than 72 hours before the critical deadline, before the point of no return, the Players Association is finally starting to understand what they've done. The internal meetings have become desperate. The tone has shifted from defiant to panicked. The hardliners are being drowned out by players who just want to salvage something from this disaster. But is it too late? Have they pushed too far? Have they burned too many bridges? Have they lost too much credibility? The owners are no longer negotiating from weakness. They're negotiating from strength. Every day that passes, every leak that emerges, every sponsor that threatens to walk, it all strengthens their position. They can wait. They can survive a lockout. They can weather the storm. Can the players? The veterans are watching their final seasons evaporate. The role players are watching their careers disappear. The young stars are watching their opportunities vanish. And Caitlin Clark? She's building a media empire that doesn't need any of them. The irony is brutal. The players opted out early to capitalize on Caitlyn's impact. But by doing so, by overplaying their hand, by misjudging the situation, they might have pushed her away entirely. They might have killed the golden goose. And here's the saddest part. The part that should haunt every player who supported this strategy. They could have had it all. If they'd been patient. If they'd been strategic. If they'd let the growth continue for another year or two. If they'd built on the momentum instead of disrupting it. They could have had sustainable raises, better working conditions, chartered flights, marketing support, everything they wanted. All they had to do was not screw it up. All they had to do was recognize that Caitlin Clark gave them a gift, the gift of relevance, and treat it accordingly. Instead, they acted like they earned it themselves, like they deserved it all along. Like Caitlin was just a coincidence in their inevitable rise to prominence. And now the bill is coming due. The networks are restless. The sponsors are threatening to leave. The fans are losing interest. The young players are looking elsewhere. The veterans are panicking. And Caitlin Clark is making other plans. The walls haven't just closed in. They've collapsed. And standing in the rubble, the Players Association is finally asking the question they should have asked months ago. What have we done? But there's one final twist. One last development that could change everything. Something that's about to happen in the next few hours that could either save the WNBA or destroy it completely. The final twist is this. Caitlin Clark is about to speak. Not through representatives. Not through carefully crafted PR statements. Not through social media posts that say nothing. She's going to stand in front of cameras, in front of the world, and say exactly what she thinks about this entire situation. The press conference is scheduled for tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. Every major network has already cleared their schedule. Every sports outlet is sending their top reporters. Because everyone knows this is the moment that decides everything. If Caitlin Clark supports the Players Association, if she backs their position, if she stands in solidarity, the owners will have no choice but to cave. Public pressure would be overwhelming. The narrative would shift instantly. But if she doesn't, if she takes a different stance, if she calls for reason, if she suggests the players should accept the deal, it's over. The union's position becomes untenable. The holdouts look selfish. The entire strategy collapses. And here's what nobody outside of Caitlin's inner circle knows. Here's the information that would send shockwaves through the entire sports world if it leaked. She's already made her decision. Caitlin Clark is going to announce that she'll play next season regardless of what happens with the CBA. If there's a lockout, she'll play overseas. If there's a new league, she'll join it. If exhibition games are all that's available, she'll play those. But she will not sit out. She will not wait. She will not let a labor dispute define her career. She's going to frame it as being for the fans. For the young girls who look up to her. For the growth of women's basketball. But everyone will understand what it really means. It means she's abandoning the union position. It means she's prioritizing her career over collective bargaining. It means she's choosing her brand over solidarity. And once she does that, once she breaks ranks, the dominoes will fall fast. Other young stars will follow her lead. Veterans who want one more season will cave. Role players who need paychecks will surrender. The union will crumble. Not officially, not formally, but practically. Because you cannot maintain a holdout when your biggest star, your primary leverage, your golden goose, is saying, "I'm playing no matter what." The Players Association knows this press conference is coming. They've been desperately trying to reach Caitlin. Trying to convince her. Trying to change her mind. But she's not taking their calls. She's not responding to texts. She's done with the politics, the posturing, the games. She came to the WNBA to play basketball. To compete. To build something special. Not to be a pawn in someone else's negotiation. Not to be the face of a movement she didn't start. Not to sacrifice her prime years for players who resented her impact. And tomorrow morning she's going to make that crystal clear. But here's the tragic irony. The thing that makes this whole situation even more devastating. The owners already know what she's going to say. They've known for days. Oh, because Caitlin's agent told them. Not officially. Not directly. But through back channels. Through whispers. Through signals that smart business people understand. That's why the owners have been so confident lately. That's why they've been leaking documents. That's why they've been applying pressure. They knew their ace was coming. They knew Caitlin was going to break ranks. They knew the union's leverage was about to evaporate. They've been running out the clock. Waiting for tomorrow. Waiting for the kill shot. And the Players Association? They walked right into it. They pushed too hard. They demanded too much. They overestimated their position. They underestimated Caitlyn's independence. And now they're about to learn what happens when you base your entire strategy on someone else's star power without securing their loyalty first. Rebecca Lobo tried to warn them. Sophie Cunningham saw it coming. The veterans on that Zoom call knew something was wrong. But the union leadership? The hardliners? The true believers? They were too proud to listen. Too committed to back down. Too invested in their narrative to see reality. And reality is about to hit them like a freight train. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, Caitlin Clark is going to end this negotiation with a single press conference. Not through compromise. Not through mutual agreement. Not through collective bargaining. Through individual action. Through personal choice. Through the simple declaration that she's going to play basketball, period. The walls haven't just closed in on the WNBA players. They've been crushed by them. And the person holding the wrecking ball? The one player they needed most. The one player who changed everything. The one player they couldn't afford to lose. Caitlin Clark. The savior who became the destroyer. The leverage that became the liability. The rising tide that lifted all boats, until they forgot who created the tide. Tomorrow morning this all ends. Not with a bang. Not with a whimper. With a press conference that will be remembered as the moment the WNBA Players Association learned the hardest lesson in professional sports. Never bet everything on someone else's star. Because stars have their own orbit. Their own gravity. Their own plans. And Caitlin Clark? She's about to show everyone exactly what happens when you try to use her light without asking permission. The countdown has begun. The ending is written. The walls have fallen. All that's left is to watch it play out. Tick, tock. Game over.